Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, a podcast where we throw vials of poison at people, because this week we watched For the Doomsday.
Written by Terence Dudley.
Directed by John Black. Hey, it's John Black.
And aired in January of 1982. What's John Black from?
Don't you remember, it was 3 weeks ago? John Black, or 4 weeks ago, John Black directed something like, wow, that has to be the most nondescript name ever.
Yeah, I kind of remember that, but I don't remember what serial it was.
Neither do I.
I don't know.
It's John Black.
He's back.
In black?
He's
back in black?
Yeah, so...
For the Doomsday.
He's back again, directing a serial as nondescript as his name.
I think this was the first Fifth Doctor serial that was actually filmed.
Yeah, that might have to do with some stuff that we might get into.
Well, they had a script for what Castro Valva replaced, and then at the last minute, J&T was like, how about no? So Bidmead had to write that whole new script, Castro Valva, so they pushed it to the end of the production block. So they filmed everything out of order this season. I think they do The Visitation next, which doesn't come till 2 serials from now, I think. I think. I don't know, though. So it begins with... Shoot, how does it...
Well, it begins kind of slow-paced.
It stays slow-paced.
Yeah, it stays slow-paced. Well, it picks up the pace a little bit, but the Doctor and co land on a spaceship.
Oh yeah, they're in the TARDIS, and Tegan's all, take me back to Heathrow, and the Doctor's like, okay, sure. She's like, I'm gonna miss my flight. She seems to fail to grasp the concept of a time machine.
Yeah, well, all the characters here seem kind of, maybe with the exception of Nyssa, and maybe the Doctor too, so maybe just Adric and Tegan, but... They seem kind of Edge of Destruction-y.
You mean completely out of character?
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Well, actually, Adric was kind of in character, he was more of an extreme Adric than we had seen previously.
Well, I think Nyssa is out of character for...
Because she doesn't do jack for a while.
Yeah, well, I think she falls more in line with her character when she's with the Doctor later. But I think when she's in the group settings or when she's alone, everything kind of goes whack.
Yeah, I think there are some scenes where Nyssa is out of character, too.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Thanks. Thanks, Terence Dudley.
He writes 3 more things.
Great.
So, yeah, they test the atmosphere, and for once they actually have to put on these helmets. So they do that. The Doctor goes outside to scout everything out first.
Yeah, these sketch as heck helmets, because they don't have a face mask. They're just like a helmet with pipes from some oxygen tanks leading to in front of your face.
Yeah, you don't want a face mask obscuring your view. You know, you can get fingerprints on it and stuff like that.
Yeah, but how do you breathe?
With the little respirator thing.
But how?
I don't know, you just do.
Well, the Doctor goes outside, and then Adric decides to just go full misogynist.
Yeah, this is the worst Adric has ever been. This serial in general, and this specific scene, because they're making... Tegan and Nyssa are talking about some... Well, actually, Tegan wants to...
Go back to Heathrow
and go outside and follow the Doctor. And Adric is like, well, why don't you just shut up and read one of those math books that's over there in the corner? Yeah. And then Tegan's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. And he's like, yeah, that's what I expect from a woman. And then Nyssa is like, well, what about me? I'm reading this math book here. And he's like, you're not a woman, Nyssa. You're just a girl.
No, isn't it the other way around? He's like, you're not a girl, you're a woman?
No.
You know, it doesn't even matter because it's all nonsense anyway.
Adric,
why?
I feel like Terence Dudley was trying to make him even more hateable than he already is. Yeah.
Maybe Adric is just Terence Dudley's least favorite character, and he just wanted to sabotage his whole time on the
It
show.
worked. And I mean, he was my least favorite character before this, but now he's like my super least favorite character. And based on what he does later.
Oh, no.
Anyway, eventually, all three of them, I think, make their way outside. The doctor comes back
Yeah,
in.
the doctor comes back in, and then Tegan's like, I don't want to go outside. So the doctor's like, well, I'm just going to give the spare key to Adric then. And Tegan's like, no, I'll come outside. So the doctor's like, okay, you can have the spare key.
Yeah, it's obvious off the bat that Terence Dudley doesn't know how to write the characters in line with
Castro Alpha.
Well, with how they'd previously been written, previously been portrayed. So there you go. It's kind of nice. Actually, no, it's not. No,
it's not.
So outside, there's this little
floating orb thing.
Yeah.
It's just spying on them, and we hear these voices talking. They're watching this video screen. What I did like was that we didn't see the people who were watching the doctor until the doctor actually saw them. That was kind of a neat reveal. That's kind of the only good thing about this serial.
Well, I liked the sets in this serial. The whole thing took place on this spaceship, and you're like, okay, yeah, it's just going to be another spaceship. But it actually looked pretty cool. The walls looked detailed. They weren't just flat. They looked actually kind of machinery-ish. So, and it was nice how, like, you know, one room maybe it would just be like, okay, gray, generic, or whatever. But in the next room, it would have, like, different lighting. Like, all of a sudden, it would be all red. And then in the control room, it was all, like, greenish, yellow, and...
Yeah.
Like, made it more interesting than it otherwise would have been, at least, even if it wasn't terribly interesting. So, at least there's that. That was, like, the best part of this serial, so that actually kind of sucks.
That actually reminded me that I had to think of some nonsense reason why the doctor couldn't actually get to Heathrow. Apparently they actually did land in 1981, but the magnetic field of the ship threw off the TARDIS or something.
There's also the question of why they thought that Forward to Doomsday line/plot point was important enough to name the serial after it.
Well, I think they were going for like a Four Horses of the Apocalypse thing, but
what?
That's what I felt like it was. They had all of those four leaders coming in and like, hey, we're coming to destroy your planet and wipe out your people. Guess it was.
Did you just watch the new X-Men?
No. No, actually, no. I have someone who keeps telling me to, and I'm like, I haven't seen the two that come between X3 and the new ones.
Does that matter?
Probably, yeah, actually. So, regardless of whether Terence Dudley was going for that or not.
Regardless of whether or not we've seen X-Men, we have. It's in our other podcast.
The Doctor, well, for some inexplicable reason, tells Nyssa and Adric to get this random piece of machinery that's just chilling on the spaceship working. He's just like, Adric, Nyssa, work on this machinery and make it work. And they're like, okay.
They immediately start bickering.
They start tinkering with it. Their entire friendship that's been built up over the past three serials immediately falls apart as soon as Terence Dudley takes over. Apparently it's a machine for detecting gravitational waves, I think. Which, by the way, we actually just discovered gravitational waves in the real world, like a couple weeks ago. So
it's pretty interesting.
So the Doctor and Tegan, I almost said Nyssa. The Doctor and Tegan go looking for the people who are on the ship, who are kind of piloting the ship. And they find them. These big green monster things that are just chilling.
Yeah.
In this throne room.
And Tegan starts breaking down even more for some
because they're all
reason.
Scary, I guess. The Doctor's like, calm down, Tegan.
Yeah, but I don't know. They're, they reveal that they're the Obangans?
I think so.
Obankans?
No, I think it was Obankans, yeah.
Yeah.
They asked Tegan what the style is like on Earth. She's wearing a flight attendant uniform, which is purple.
Sort of a mauve.
It's purple. And she draws them some outfits.
Apparently she's like a pretty decent artist. So.
Tegan gains a lot of skills in this serial.
They also reveal that they're travelers, they're going to Earth, and they reveal that they've been to Earth multiple times in the past, and they're like, hey, we're going back. Favorite vacation spot in the universe? No, not really.
Why? So they're like, okay, cool, thanks. We're gonna like go find Nis and Adric now. And I think they all end up in like the eating room, the galley.
Yeah, they're confronted by Bigon, who's like this ancient Greek dude. I guess he was an Athenian.
Same thing.
Maybe he was a Spartan.
Same thing as
Probably
a Greek
not.
dude, not the same thing as an Athenian.
Probably not a Spartan, because he goes on and on about democracy later.
You think he's an Athenian, yeah.
But then they had the little war, not war, but they had the fighting dudes.
Because maybe they just took
faux soldiers.
Well, because they probably just took people from Greece, which would include both Athens and Sparta.
I guess. I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter that much.
No, because it's never relevant to the plot. So he's all, so we're on the ship, we're just kind of chilling, and then we forgot to mention that the three guys piloting the ship, the leader is Monarch, and then he's got Enlightenment, who's a woman, and Persuasion, who's a man.
Yeah. I guess their names kind of Monarch makes sense, but
Persuasion
because he's a
and
monarch butterfly. No, he's not.
What?
Yeah, I don't know.
But Persuasion comes in, and they're all like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Persuasion," because he looks like a human now,
Well, he looks like the drawing that Tegan did.
except in green.
Yeah, I didn't imagine them in green, but they're in green. So, yeah, they actually both come in. But we actually meet the other humans, I think. Well, that's the end of episode 1. And I don't know if we met the humans in episode 1 or 2, but it's like around now.
True.
So, the doctor and co are like, why is this Greek guy on this ship? And he says he's been here for thousands of years. So what's up with that? And then all of a sudden, this Chinese guy comes in. Yeah, this is Lin Fu Tu. He comes in. He's like, hey, what's up? And then Jukuji shows up, and he's not like, hey, what's up? Because he's the only one of them who doesn't speak English.
Yeah, he speaks Aborigine
language. Yeah, I guess.
And apparently Tegan can just speak that language.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
What's even
Must
more
be one of the
impressive-
gerbil languages.
Well, what's even
Australia.
more impressive is that she speaks, I guess, what would be considered the modern version of the language, because languages evolve over time, and this tribesman from thousands of years ago can also communicate with her.
Yeah, I guess this. He was supposed to be from like 12,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know too much about it, but I know a lot of the indigenous languages of Australia are like dying out, and not even their own people speak them anymore. But I guess Tegan does. So good job.
Good job,
Good job, Tegan.
That's a skill that will never come in handy again on this show. Also, there's a princess, I don't remember her name, but she's the leader of like the Mayans who are there too. So those are the 4 people.
The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse,
Yes.
according to you.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
Hey, it's a valid interpretation.
It's going a bit far.
I don't think so. They're bringing down the apocalypse. So, I think,
They don't really explain why they're there at all.
No, but Bygone explains that Monarch and their people... Well, no, the Monarch explains that they left their homeworld because of some solar activity. And then Bygone later on is like, Yeah, no, he's totally lying. He used up all of the power of the sun in his dumb faster-than-light experiments. That's why he's coming to Earth.
What if Beigen is the one who's lying? What if Adric was right all along, and Beigen just
given
wanted to
everything
kill
else
everyone?
on the ship, I'm more inclined to believe Beigen.
What if Beigen just wanted to kill everyone? What if he's just a crazy mass murderer?
Maybe it's 40 Doomsday because they're going to reach Earth in 4 days,
Yeah,
apparently.
no, that's what it is, but I question why that was an important enough line.
Well, what would you have named this
Full
serial?
circle. No.
Probably would have been a better name.
No, not really, but... Well, Adric was being just as / slightly more insufferable than he was in Full Circle, so...
Well, anyway,
And State of Decay, but...
they get split up, don't they? At this point?
Yeah, they get split up a lot. I don't even remember why.
Nyssa and Adric go to whatever, and the Doctor and Tegan stick together. Doctor and Tegan kind of stick together for this whole serial.
Until Tegan decides to just jack the TARDIS.
I feel like that's how... Not Tegan jacking the TARDIS. I feel like that's how most of the serials with this TARDIS team are going to go. They're going to split into 2 teams of 2, actually.
Which could be for the best.
If they execute it well, which... I don't know if this serial is a shining example of executing that well.
Well, they execute Adric well.
No,
In a couple weeks. Get it? Anyway.
Hey, you don't know if that's accurate. So, the Doctor and Tegan chill with Bygone, and he's like, this isn't me, this is me, and he like tears off his face, and you can see all the
It's
circuitry.
Bennett, no.
Bennett from the rescue.
No, he's actually a robot.
And then what? Vicky shows up. Yeah, and he reveals that every human on board is a robot.
Yeah, and they have 2 classes. The humans who they'd taken from Earth who were
Flesh time.
Yeah, the flesh time. Who they modified / cyborgized.
/ killed their body and gave them a robotic one for
Yeah.
some of them.
I want a cool robotic body. No. And then they have the other ones who were just created from scratch, I guess, who were like the slave class.
Yeah. I think at some point the Monarch reveals that they've got 3 billion people on board.
Yeah.
And Adric is like, 3 billion people? That's impossible. And he's like, nah, they're all just circuits.
Yeah. They have this entire wall of the people they've digitized.
I think this is the part where Adric sells out.
I think so, because he and Nyssa
Yeah, they
definitely go.
get taken to the Monarch, I think.
Yeah, they're an audience with the Monarch. I think we actually skipped the whole performance scene.
I think that happened concurrently.
Oh, okay. So
Or roughly concurrently.
what's his name? Monarch sort of explains a bit more about their plan and how they've.
Yeah, but he lies through his teeth about it.
Yeah, he does. Adric thinks it's a good idea. Because what they're planning to do is when they get to Earth, they're going to, according to Monarch at this point in time, are going to,
Just blend in.
yeah, and try and help the humans become robots. And Adric's like, great plan. Well, Nissa's obviously very critical of this, and she makes that known. And then Adric is like, great plan, Monarch. I'm completely on board with this. I'm just going to go tell the Doctor so he can be on board with it too. And at this point, I was like, you know what? Adric actually thinking ahead for once. This is actually good because, because at this point, I thought like, okay, obviously Nyssa doesn't like the plan, so they're going to keep her captive. And they're going to let Adric go because they think he's on board. And then Adric's just going to go warn everyone, right?
Yeah.
No. Apparently, Adric really is on board with this plan.
Well, what's even more confusing is that the way Matthew Waterhouse plays it is like he's faking it. Matthew Waterhouse plays it like Adric is fake buying into the plan. But then So I thought he was fake buying into the plan until like deep into episode 4 when
Yeah.
Adric actually meets up with the doctor and he's like, no, it's actually a good plan. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
What?
the whole time I was like, oh, he's just, yeah, oh God, it's just bad. So once again, completely selling everyone out. And then
This is just Adric's character now. This is just Adric.
But yeah, you're right. It was. I did think it was a bluff until well into later. Well into later.
While all of this is going on, Bygone is talking with the Doctor and Tegan, who are watching this performance of some sort. Bygone's like, yeah, we put on these performances just for entertainment in our voyage. It's basically just all of the local people being forced to perform their local customs for the entertainment of the monarch.
Yeah, they've been on the ship for thousands of years. I'm surprised their cultures just didn't blend into one giant conglomerate. But then again, there was that, like, subtle race. It wasn't actually that subtle, that racism, where Bygone reveals that Kukuji and Lin Futu have sold out for power because the monarch promised them to that they could lead their people once they got back to Earth. And the Doctor's like, oh, why didn't you sell out, Bygone? He's like, well, I come from a civilized democracy, and democracy is the only thing I want. So I was like, great.
The monarch really gets the better end of that deal, considering the Mayan culture died out thousands of years ago.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, I mean... and the fact the monarch probably wasn't going to make good on any of his promises. So, there's that.
So, Bygone gives them a guided tour of the ship.
Yeah, I don't know. They do this multiple times in this serial where, who was the guy? Persuasion?
Persuasion was the guy.
He's tasked with keeping watch over the Doctor, but he kind of just lets the Doctor conspire with Bygone and his companions halfway across the room most of the time, so... I mean, if he was just there watching them over their shoulder, they probably wouldn't have gotten away with much.
Or anything. Yeah, Bygone comes over and he's like, I'm going to pretend like I'm explaining the combat down there. Hey, you should meet me like in 10 minutes. Can you make a distraction? Doctor's like, yep, I got you.
And then you just see Persuasion halfway across the room just like arch an eyebrow. And I'm like, you should probably just be watching them from a closer distance. They really wouldn't be able to do anything.
So the Doctor fake faints, and Tegan's like, oh no, help! And so they get taken to this random storage room, or they make a break for this random storage room where they meet Bygone, and he's like, so this is a thing, and the Doctor puts his hat on top of the little circle thing. They're named Monopticans.
Yeah. I think this is actually where we find out that they're robots.
No? The cliffhanger at episode 2 is when Bygone reveals he's a robot.
I don't know.
Cliffhanger at episode 3 was when they're going to kill the Doctor with the sword.
Oh, yeah.
So the Doctor and Bygone go walking around. The Doctor uses his sonic screwdriver to confuse some Monopticans with some magnetic field mumbo-jumbo.
Yeah. He reverses the
magnetic
polarity of the magnetic field. No. They devised this plan to do something or the other.
Yeah, they're gonna rise up against the monarch. It's basically a thinly veiled allegory for a revolution. Especially since they literally named the leader the monarch. But, oh yeah, Bygone reveals that they have, like, what do you call it? Where they're studying some plants, and the monarch's just got some poison just chilling.
They have like a greenhouse type thing.
But it's like not actually poison. It like shrinks you.
Yeah, I guess I would assume that would kill you, but I don't know.
No, apparently not.
Yeah.
Also, Bygone's like 1 teaspoon will shrink you to the size of like 6 inches or whatever, and then like
throws the entire vial. Apparently, it's secreted by frogs. Which maybe, I don't know if, were they going for like, oh, the Obankans were, or that they evolved from frogs or something, I don't know. Because they call them frogs multiple times.
So. I don't know. It just reminded me of the newest Pirates of the Caribbean movie, where Barbossa has his sword covered in poison secreted from frogs.
Just reminded me that Adric is actually evolved from spiders.
It's not how evolution works.
It is on Alzarius.
Oh yeah, when the Doctor introduces themselves, the Doctor's like, so this is Tegan, she's a human. This is Nyssa, she's from Traken. This is Adric, he's from Alzarius, and I am from Gallifrey. Which actually made me realize that everybody in the TARDIS right now is from a different place, which I don't think is something that's happened before.
Nope, I don't think so either. Well... Yeah, I guess Dr. Leela, K9.
If you have just the Doctor and one companion, then yeah, they'd have to be from different places. But still, I just thought it was interesting to note.
Usually that's not the case, so yeah, that is pretty interesting.
Anyway, back to the Doctor. The Monarch's like, yeah, they're probably definitely plotting against us, so let's just go round them up. Adric is also revealed to the Monarch that the TARDIS can travel through space and time, and the Monarch's like, yes.
Yeah, he's revealed all this stuff to the Monarch about the TARDIS, and I was like, okay, you're going a little bit far with this bluff, Adric.
Yeah, well, it all makes sense when you find out it's not a bluff. So... They capture the Doctor and Tegan, and Persuasion is like, well, because Nyssa gets, they're like, oh, they're going to turn Nyssa into a robot.
Yeah, they almost do.
But the Doctor and Beigen rescue her, and then Persuasion comes in, and he's like, restrain her, kill him. He's just pointing fingers everywhere. And some Spartans come up with a sword, and they're about to kill the Doctor, and you wonder why... I don't know, Persuasion didn't use that gun he has in his coat, or they put the Doctor in the robot-making machine, or any other more efficient and quicker ways of killing the Doctor.
I don't know.
Well, episode 3 ends with that, and episode 4 begins with that. Episode 4 has the shortest... this was actually really weird to me. Episode 4 had a really short cliffhanger, where they show you it again, like recap, where they just showed him telling them to kill him. But then episodes 2 and 3 had 2-minute long recaps.
They needed to fill in for time. The episodes weren't long enough.
Yeah, but then episode 4 was the longest of all 4 of them. By a good solid 2 minutes.
Oh well. It's better than, when they go back 5 minutes. Which they've been doing more lately. I mean, first it was just a War Games thing, and then now it's like they're doing it every other episode, but...
So...
Yeah, I don't even remember how the Doctor
The Monarch
escapes.
is like, hey... Well, Adric's like, I'm not going to help you if you kill the Doctor.
Yeah.
The Monarch's like, oh, shoot.
I was like,
been caught.
Good ploy, Adric.
No!
Nope. So, Monarch does want Adric's help. A lot.
Well, he wants the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Tegan now makes a break for it. She's like, I'm going to the TARDIS.
Tegan's just like, yeah, I'm going to go steal the TARDIS.
Yeah, Adric was looking for the Doctor, and Tegan's like, I've got this extra key. And then Adric's like, no, you don't. And then Adric, attacks her to try and get the key. And she, shoves him to the ground and runs for the TARDIS.
God.
This is character development. This is how character development works.
And there's some scenes with Nyssa and the TARDIS trying to just steal it.
Tegan, you mean?
Did I say Tegan?
You said Nyssa.
Oh. Well, I meant Tegan.
Yeah, no, for the rest of episode 4, all we see of Tegan is shots of her in the TARDIS trying to pilot it.
Oh, God.
She accidentally phases it outside the ship.
That becomes kind of a big thing later.
And
I liked that scene, I'll be honest. I liked that.
Yeah, well, that scene was the only good one out of all of them, because the rest of them all just filler of her going, and what do I have to lose?
Throwing the conveniently English TARDIS manual on the ground and kicking it.
And standing on it in her heels. Has she been wearing heels this whole time?
Think so.
Mildly impressive. So, Adric tries to convince the doc. They go to the Monarch. The Monarch's like, yeah, so this is a thing. And the Doctor's like, yeah, yeah. And then afterwards, he's like, no, no. And Adric's like, yeah. And the Doctor's like, no.
Yeah, this is the best explanation of this episode that we could possibly give. Well, this is the point where I was like, oh, so Adric is actually okay with what the Monarch wants to do. Oh. Well then.
Yeah, because I don't think we explained the Monarch actually wants the silicon on Earth to travel faster than light so we can go back in time.
Yeah, he has this insane plan. Adric is, I don't think Adric is, like, really privy to that plan. He's more okay with the, I'm going to turn everyone into robots thing, which he thinks is good.
Which is,
questionable. Well, see, I kind of would have maybe liked this more if the Monarch's position was more of a gray sort of middle ground thing where you could actually understand, like, maybe he's right. But I mean, in this case, it's so obvious that the Monarch is completely wrong and evil that Adric's betrayal just makes you hate him more.
Yeah. Because now the Doctor tries to explain to him why the Monarch's bad, and Adric's like, I don't believe you. Bad, not bag. And
Theo Bangans, yeah, right.
And another one of these ceremonies with the least synchronized dancing ever, I might add. I actually noticed it was really bad.
They started doing it on purpose.
The extras weren't being paid enough to make it any sort of good. Well, right at the beginning, when there's the one playing the didgeridoo, and all the other ones are like dancing, and they're all like really off time to each other.
Oh well. Well, I just liked when they had the dragons come out. There was this one guy he was doing a good job, but I guess he just didn't realize that his entire body was visible. So it was just like this guy wearing a t-shirt and jeans under the dragon.
Yeah, well, the extras weren't being paid enough to care.
It's not as bad as Destiny of the Daleks, really. But I don't know.
Yeah, so now the Doctor goes with Adric. Oh, they reprogrammed Bygin because he was showing signs of rebellion. So they're like, we're just going to reprogram him. But they keep the original programming chip for some reason. They just chuck it in with the other 3 billion that they're hanging out with.
Might as well. I mean, what, do you want them to litter? Just throw it out into space?
I mean...
They could get fined,
By what? The space pirates?
Yeah.
What's his name? Shoot. The crazy dude from Space Pirates. What was his name?
Polyface Avatron? No. No, I don't remember. Captain something or the other.
That was the pirate planet. You're thinking of the pirate planet.
Pirate
I'm
planet.
thinking of the Space Pirates, the second Doctor one.
Good luck remembering that.
Crazy hermit dude who just... Okay, whatever. It's not relevant. So... The Doctor's like, I need to get to the TARDIS. But he first meets up with Lin Fu Tu and convinces him to change sides. He convinces him, by the way, a lot easier than he convinced Adric. He just goes, yeah, the Monarch's pretty bad. And Lin Fu Tu's like, hey, you're right. He probably is pretty bad.
Well, you can kind of justify it by like, okay, Lin Fu Tu was there for longer, and he has inklings that like the Monarch isn't like exactly the best guy in the world, but at the same time, yeah, what the heck, Adric?
You think Adric would catch on pretty quickly when they tried to kill, Nyssa, his best friend, according to the past 3 serials, but not according to this one. Hey, if anything, this is the most character development we've had on the show in a span of 2 serials. It's just not good character development.
Yeah, just not in line with anything, ever. And probably never again. I mean, maybe until Terence Dudley writes another serial.
Or the next 3 serials that Anthony Root script edits. Maybe it was all his fault. Maybe that's why he only did 3 serials. Yeah, I don't think we mentioned this last week, but Bid Mead stopped being script editors. They got Anthony Root, who did this, The Visitation and Earthshock, I think, and then we get Eric Seward.
Sayward.
Sayward?
Sayward is how
Sayward?
Wikipedia told me to pronounce it like 30 minutes ago.
Saywood, who basically does every serial between now and season 25, I think. So
there you go.
maybe that's why maybe that's why Anthony Root gets fired. But anyway,
Yeah, the Doctor needs to get to the TARDIS, but Tegan has piloted it into the convenient position of like a little ways away from the ship.
in space. And the Doctor's like, well, I'm just going to put on this sketchy as heck helmet and I'll just float out there. It'll totally work. That's totally how that works.
It does. It works. They have, the Doctor finally convinces Adric to, side with him.
Yeah, well, Lin Futu reprograms Baigen, and then they give Adric the spacesuit to go out into space as well, or to hang out in the airlock, I guess. And it looks like they just reused a Sontaran outfit.
Yeah.
So, Sontaran Adric is in the airlock with the Doctor.
Sontadric. And they have this little wire or rope or something. The Doctor's going to kick off the ship and get into the TARDIS, but then Persuasion shows up.
Oh yeah, Persuasion has been chasing them this whole episode actually, and every time he finds them, they just go back to the room with the ceremony, just chill there, and Persuasion's like, yeah, they're probably not doing anything.
So Persuasion and Adric have a little scuffle. And I think Adric disables Persuasion because he
the Doctor comes back in and disables Persuasion and chucks the control chip into space, kills him, and the Monarch's like no. And then Enlightenment comes in when the Doctor kicks off again, and then Adric scuffles with her and disables her and chucks her control chip out. Which, since we're counting them as dying, that means Adric's finally killed someone. And given his character, it took him long enough.
Yeah, I guess. The Doctor's trajectory is kind of off, I think, so he uses the cricket ball that he had earlier in the serial to launch himself into the TARDIS.
Yeah, he throws it and it bounces off the spaceship, and it comes back and he catches it and propels him into the TARDIS. And all four of the leaders are watching through the window, and they all go, yeah! When the Doctor makes it to the TARDIS.
Well, I actually liked this scene. This was probably like the best / most enjoyable scene in this entire story because, I don't know, there was no real dialogue. It was just set to music. So it's kind of nice there, I guess. Didn't have to listen to Adric talking. No, I'm just kidding. Kind of. Actually, no, I'm not kidding, but...
So the Doctor gets into the TARDIS and Tegan's like, Doctor! The Doctor's like, you're interrupting my concentration.
So, yeah, he pilots the TARDIS back onto the ship, and, they kind of
the Monarch shows up and is like, I'm gonna kill you all.
It was actually kind of funny. The Doctor and Tegan walk out of the TARDIS, and the Monarch's just standing there, and the Doctor's like, run!
Yeah, they make it...
They go get the frog poison, and they go back to the Monarch, and the Doctor chucks the vial of poison at the Monarch, and it shrinks him, and then it's over.
You're forgetting the scene when they made all of the android robots go crazy. They're all just chilling in the celebration room going crazy. And you forgot how super casually the Doctor just chucks this poison. Adric's carrying it because the Doctor wants to quote-unquote examine it. And then the Monarch blocks the TARDIS, and Adric's holding the vial, and the Doctor just reaches over and chucks it at the Monarch.
Yeah, it's kind of like the ending of Robot, where they have like this big climactic scene, right? Like where the Doctor's trying to get back into the TARDIS, and then Persuasion and Enlightenment show up, and then at the end he just kind of chucks the vial at the bad guy.
Doesn't kill him though, at least as far as we know. Just shrinks him to tiny proportions. And as like I was saying earlier, apparently a teaspoon will shrink you to 6 inches. So what do you think the whole vial will do?
I don't know.
He's Ant-Man. And then the Doctor traps him by putting the space helmet on him. Oh yeah, Monarch tried to flesh him out by turning off the environment or whatever, and the Doctor's like, I can go into a trance, it means I use less oxygen. And by trance he means doing this.
Peter Davison hyperventilates for a minute and a half. Well, maybe it wasn't that long, but it felt that long. So it was kind of annoying.
Yeah, and then they get in the TARDIS, And Tegan's like, I want to go back to Heathrow. And then they preemptively write out how they're not getting to Heathrow next week by Adric saying, oh yeah, Nyssa forgot to reprogram the like time vexing analog or something.
And then Nyssa faints.
Yeah, apparently that's supposed to be a throwback to like the first Doctor when the serials blended into each other.
Yeah.
I think the example the wiki gives is like the toothache at the end of Celestial Toymaker and then at the beginning of the Gunfighters.
Yeah, so I hope next week isn't as dumb as that. Although if it results in a serial as funny as the Gunfighters, then why not?
Well,
and funny, like, as in actually funny, not funny because Adric is betraying everyone and Tegan is just dumb.
This, in my opinion, this is the funniest serial so far because it was just so absurd. One, how Adric sold everybody out the serial, even worse than all the other serials so far. And two, how super casually the Doctor just chucks that vial at the Monarch. You should go and watch it. It's actually really funny.
Yeah, see, I'm glad you're coming over to my side of Adric being a total D-bag being funny.
It's only funny at this point because there's nothing else for it to be. It's not like you can justify it. He's just a dick. Why is he in the TARDIS?
So should we talk about Peter Davison as the Fifth Doctor?
Yeah, I'm actually warming up to him.
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, this serial was filmed first, obviously, so maybe that has something to do, along with the script, maybe that has something to do with the characters being kind of wonky. Maybe not, though. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's
fine.
less of an explanation for Nyssa, Tegan, and the Adric than it is for Peter Davison.
The Adric, it's happened. God.
Did I actually? Okay. Now it just needs to happen for what, Tegan?
It's less of an explanation, especially given Logopolis, where they seemed fine. Even Adric.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can use it as an explanation for Peter Davison since he's kind of getting into the role in this serial, so, like, naturally his character would feel a little bit different from the other serials. Whereas Nyssa, Tegan, and Adric, you'd think, they'd know what's going on with their characters by this point.
Maybe Tegan, because she'd only been in 2 stories at this point, but still.
Adric for sure.
Well, Tegan's writing in this was just abysmal, so. And Adric sure as heck was, so.
But I am warming up to Peter Davidson's Doctor. He's obviously not Tom Baker's portrayal of the Doctor, but he is. I don't think he's bad.
Well, I was just going to say he actually seems a lot like just a less snappy version of Tom Baker to me at this point.
I feel like he takes
only 3 stories, but 2,
what I feel like is he takes the kind of
the good parts of Baker and not the.
I was gonna say well, like the funny, humorous parts of Tom, and then like the dignified, stays calm of Pertwee. In my opinion, at least.
Without all the
jerk
to his companions.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like the best of Pertwee and Baker kind of combined into his portrayal, and obviously that opinion / portrayal will evolve in the coming weeks.
Yeah. His delivery obviously doesn't match Tom's, but most actors' delivery doesn't, especially on this show.
Yeah. What I did like about the serial was I did actually like Tegan and the Doctor's chemistry as well. Even though it wasn't written the best, I feel like they do have a good chemistry together.
Maybe. We'll have to see.
And I feel like Tegan is actually working out to be a pretty good companion because she seems to work really well with both Nyssa and the Doctor. Not so much Adric, but that's more Adric's fault than Tegan's. But I'm curious to see where all of this is going to go, especially with, hopefully next week, Peter Davison nailing down his portrayal of the Doctor so we can finally actually...
I don't think he's going to nail it after 3 stories.
Well, starting to nail it down, at least.
I guess, maybe starting to lay the foundations there.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully there's some...
good writing.
I was gonna say hopefully there's some room for character growth and development in the character of the Doctor as well as there usually is. The one character they ever give character development to in this program is the Doctor. Definitely more so than every other character on this show.
Yeah.
Hey, just look at Pertwee. He started off real grumpy-like and really a jerk in season 7, and in his final season, there's a marked change from season 7.
That might not have as much to do with in-universe stuff as
As it
might
has to
wanna
do with what
admit.
Katie Manning being like, hey, John, kind of being
Stop.
a jerk as the doctor.
John.
John, stop it.
But yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. So, fairly forgettable serial, I'd say. I mean, the name stands out.
Yeah, but it's definitely not good. It's on the bad side of mediocre. You know,
All right.
we end up with a lot of serials on the good side of mediocre, but this is one of the few that I can say is definitely on the bad side of mediocre.
Yeah, I guess I'd agree with that.
So, I think that wraps up this week's episode. Email us at thedoctordecadvegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Peter Davison. Still around, still doing stuff.
Yeah, isn't his... I remember reading this like last week. His daughter is like married to David Tennant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah. And on the show, Peter Davison's daughter plays the daughter of David Tennant's doctor. I'm not going to explain how that works out, but you'll see.
God,
that makes it even
weird.
weirder. Yeah, actually, Peter Davison was the youngest doctor when he was cast.
So wait, does that mean we see Susan's mom?
Look, like I said, I'm not going to explain how that works out. You're just going to have to wait and see. And you'll know when it's coming because it's in an episode named The Doctor's Daughter. So, other than that, you can find us on iTunes, YouTube, and Google Play, all at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show. It really helps us know what we should work on or keep the same. Be sure to tell your friends about the show.
Also check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor, and like us on Facebook, and also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next week, we watch Kinda, I guess.
Yeah, I've heard it's also pronounced Kinda, but I guess we'll find that out next week.
Yeah, but until then, the end.